we were talking about this proposition that lost in California. Just remind people what that proposition was. We also saw one that expedited the process for the death penalty. So the referendums across the country weren't all a win, but usually it involves something else, doesn't it? This prescription referendum.
Well, I mean, the prescription referendum was easy. It was a shot across the pharmaceuticals' bow to where you could have a state going in and negotiate prices for drugs. You could have hospitals and doctors. It would expand itself to where you could have. You could make them negotiate before they charge you 6,000% profit margin on a drug. But for some reason, you had so much money poured into that. You had progressive organizations. This is what's so amazing. You had progressive organizations that were saying, oh, this is bad. Why? When you followed the money, that progressive organization had gotten money from the drug industry. And so, I mean, it's a total disaster. I mean, it was a really good opportunity for the rest of the country to jump in and say, you know, we should be able to negotiate prices on drugs and not pay 6,000% increase a profit margin, and they do it all over the world. But it's like California went brain dead on that issue. I mean, completely. What's your take?
Well, I agree with you, and I think there's certainly room for referendums in places like California and New York State and the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest are going to be pushing at least locally these initiatives. But there's going to be so much money. It's going to be so much easier because of the control on the federal level by the Republicans for them to continue to take over states one after another. There is not the same freedom. You mentioned the referendums involving marijuana, where we saw that in 3 states, I think Nevada, Massachusetts, and there was a third that passed recreational marijuana. But the bottom line is, none of this is going to go forward. I mean, Bobby, the federal government can easily just say, we're going to bump that up on our list of things that we're going to find, we're going to prosecute. And I don't know, Attorney General Giuliani or Christie will say, we're not having any of that.
Well, I don't see that happening. Because first of all, the Republicans are kind of ideologically the states' rights people, and they would offend some of their base if they started doing some of that stuff. Back to what you were saying about the pharmaceutical referendum in California, which went down to defeat. The LA Times did a really interesting story about that, and I'm living half-time in California, so I saw the ads every night. I think the industry spent something like $160 million on advertising. I've never seen a network. Literally every channel was blanketed with these advertisements by veterans and veterans groups. Every veterans group in the state opposed it. Many of the environmental groups opposed it. Most of the progressive groups in the state opposed it. The LA Times did a story showing how every one of those groups who opposed it had taken money from the pharmaceutical industry. So the pharmaceutical industry was pumping millions of dollars into these veterans groups in exchange for them coming out against that referendum, and they just bought it. It was really horrendous.
That goes to your point about money in politics. Look, hey, Sam, let's look at the bigger picture here. I mean, the bigger picture is how did we get here? And, I mean, right now the blame game has started. I think Sam, you and I were blamed for doing a story about, maybe two stories about how Hillary might not have been the best choice during the Sanders primary. And so we're blamed for some reason. Okay, the election went south because of us. And, I mean, I'm not joking. We really get emails like that. We get a few of those, but they're outnumbered by the people that have a brain and say, what a ridiculous argument. But the blame game is taking place. I mean, you've got, for example, HuffPost. Let's take a look at what HuffPost did. Every day, you'd go to the HuffPost, and it was a Trump beatdown. I mean, legitimately. I mean, absolutely a legitimate Trump beatdown. But what we didn't understand when we saw that coming from HuffPost or Media Matters or, say, the Center for American Progress, what we didn't understand or the media forgot about was Joe Schmo out in Paducah did not really read HuffPost. He didn't read. She didn't read the Media Matters or the Center for American Progress, and so you had the D.C. bubble that charmed themselves into believing that this was a foregone conclusion. And boy, I mean, it's absolutely dysfunctional media.
There is no doubt. I mean, one thing that we can walk away from this election, and we can talk about this in the next segment. I mean, we were told that the bottom line that this was going to come down to, and when we talk about blame, I mean, I think certainly the campaign that Clinton ran was part of it, but also part of it was I think there's a healthy dose of misogyny, and obviously I think you could even look at things like President Obama maintaining his support of TPP, and also going back to when he would not prosecute the banks. But one thing that we were told over and over again was that this strategy involves the world's greatest ground game. And this is going to turn people out. And the fact is, we're sitting here today. Donald Trump received less votes than Mitt Romney received in 2012 in losing to Barack Obama. Barack Obama got 69.5 million votes in 2008. He got 65.9 in 2012. And Hillary Clinton was 6 million votes less. And this is 4 years later, when theoretically there's supposed to be more of them because they're younger and they're getting born every day.